Welcome again to a shortstop with a shortstop. Today we're going to talk a little bit about umpires.
And the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall arise. No more sorrows someday.
Coming up through the minor leagues, you get to know some of the umpires. Some of them I was able to come all the way through the minor leagues with and come up to the big leagues with. There was one by the name of Joe West, and he is retiring this year. This will be the first year that he's not umpiring for the past 30-some years. But Joe was a great umpire, and he gave you his best, no matter whether you were in Philadelphia, New York, San Francisco, what city you were in. He gave you the same call every single time, and you knew that. But Joe had a reputation. He was a fiery type of an umpire, but he's also fiery in his life. One time, I can't remember whether it was in New York or Philadelphia or where, but there was a lady that was getting mugged. And this was not during the game. This was outside the ballpark downtown. And he saw it. And he went and tackled the guy, and they ended up arresting him. But he saved that lady from getting mugged and getting her purse stolen and everything else. But that was just the kind of guy he was. If he saw something was wrong, he was going to try to make it right. And then there was another guy by the name of Doug Harvey. Doug has passed away, but he was a great umpire too. But one time he was behind the plate, and I was arguing with him. I said, Doug, that's not a strike. And he looked at me. He said, Johnny, he said, the 98 stitch on that ball caught the black on the very back of the corner, and that's why I called it a strike. I said, Doug, you are lying to me. He said, no, I'm not. He said, that's exactly the way I. But that's the way Doug was. He didn't believe that he ever missed a call, but he was fair and he was just, and he tried to make the best calls that he could make. But he never made an excuse, even if he did miss one. And all umpires miss one every once in a while. We all know that. But Doug wouldn't ever admit that he missed one. Then there was a black umpire that his name was Eric Gregg. Me and him became really good friends. We did come up through the minor leagues together. We played in the Midwest League. I was in the Pacific Coast League with him. And then we literally came up to the big leagues together in 1975. But there was one time that, and it was July the 20th, 1976. I can't forget it because it was the day my daughter was born. We had just flown back that night from Hawaii. We were playing the San Diego Padres AAA team, which that's where they were at. And we landed, and the sun was coming up, and I needed to go home and try to get some sleep because we had a game that night. But about the time I fell asleep, my wife came and nudged me on the shoulder, and she said, it's time. I said, okay. So we went to the hospital, and that was the birth of my first child, Brandy. And I was up. I mean, I was excited. I was just glorified that I had a child that had come into the world. But I go to the ballpark that night, and I mean, I can't even see. There's a guy out there from the Texas Rangers. We were playing them. He was throwing 100 miles an hour. In my first at bat, I walked up to the plate, and that first pitch came in there. I said, oh, no. I looked back. Eric happened to be the umpire behind the plate. I said, Eric, throw me out of the game. He said, what? I said, throw me out of the. He said, you got to give me something. I said, okay. Well, hold on just a second. And he threw me another pitch. I didn't see it either. Behind the backstop, it was about 40 feet high. I threw my bat probably 39 feet high. He said, okay, you're out of here. I said, thank you very much. But that's the only time that I ever did that. But Eric was the type of guy that I used to, if he was out there umpiring second base, we'd talk about the weather, we'd talk about politics, we'd talk about religion. He was just the type of guy that you enjoyed being around. But we have another umpire that I want to talk about today, and it's God. And he's the great umpire. He never, ever misses a call. God is omnipotent, which means that he's all-powerful. In Psalms chapter 89 and verse 8, we see that. God is omniscient. He literally knows everything. And you can see that in Romans chapter 8 and verse 27. God is omnipresent, which means he exists everywhere. And you can see that in Acts chapter 17, verse 27, and Psalms chapter 139, verses 7 through 10. And he is just the most awesome umpire that the human race could possibly have. I want to read Job chapter 38 to you. I want to read the whole chapter, but after I read that chapter and this lesson is done, I want you to get your Bible out and read chapters 39, 40, and 41 and 42 yourself and see what kind of an awesome umpire that we've got. Job is having a conversation with God, and God finally gets a little bit fed up with Job. And then in verse 1 of chapter 38, then the Lord answered Job out of a whirlwind and said, who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you to instruct me. So God's telling Job to instruct him. And he said, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? He said, tell me if you have understanding. Who set the measurements, since you know, or who stretched out the line? On what were its bases sunk, or who laid the cornerstones? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted with joy, or who enclosed the seas with doors, when bursting forth, it went out from the womb. When I made the clouds its garments, and thick darkness its swaddling band, and I placed boundaries on it, and set a boat with doors. And I said, thus far you have come, but no farther, and here shall your proud waves stop. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold at the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the sea, and they have stand forth like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and the uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in its recesses of its depth? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of the deep darkness? Have you understand the expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know this. And where is the way to the dwelling of light and darkness? Where is its place, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of hail, which I have reserved for the time of distress, for the day of war and battle? Where is the way that the light is divided, or that the east wind scattereth on the earth? Who has cleft the channel for the flood, or a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on the land without people, or a desert without a man in it, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, or to make the seeds of grass to sprout? Hath the rain have a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb has come the ice, and the frost of heaven? Who hath given its birth? Water becomes hard like stone, and the surface of the deep is imprisoned. Now God is just pounding Job here with a bunch of questions, and Job can't answer them, and we really can't either. But we have a God that doesn't miss a call. And let me give you three things to think about. I want you to think about the human heart. It is an instrument, it is a pump, and it pumps over millions and millions of times in one's lifetime. If we live to be 75 or 80 years old, it has pumped millions of times, and there has been no human being to ever duplicate this kind of a pump in any way, form, or fashion. And then we have our nervous system. which tells us our eyes see things, we touch things, we feel things. And nobody has ever been able to duplicate a nervous system the way that God has. And then lastly, but leastly, is our brain. There's no computer, there's no thing that has ever been invented that can duplicate the brain. And we as human beings probably only use 10% of our brain. And it has more things in it that we can still store information that a computer cannot. And it can't be duplicated. But who was the one that created this? And it was God. And if we look in John chapter 12 and verse 48, we're going to be judged. And it tells us what we're going to be judged with. And it's with the words that Jesus Christ has spoken. And God is going to be that judge. And He's not going to miss a call. He's going to call balls and strikes. He's going to call foul balls and fair balls. He's going to look at the rule book, at the words that Jesus spoke, and He's going to make a call for you and me. But there's a thing out there that tells us that there's a wide road. And it says that there's going to be many that go upon it. And then it says there's a narrow road, and only few there be that's going to find it. Which road are you on? Because if you're on that wide road, God is going to judge you. If you're on that narrow road, God is going to judge you. But the words that we want to hear is, welcome, thou good and faithful servant. I'm going to give you a crown of life. You're going to be in heaven with me forever. And that's what we want. But God is going to make the right call. Now, if you are not a Christian, I implore that you obey that gospel plan of salvation. If you have any questions ever on any of these podcasts that we do, please message me and ask me, and I will do my best to answer them as compassionately and as lovingly as I possibly can. And if you can show me where I'm doing something wrong, please tell me, because I want to know. I want to change. But I want to try to get each and every person that watches these podcasts to heaven. And we here at the Paintsville Church of Christ would love to have you to come here and sit and worship with us. Come and be my partner. Sit by me. Come and listen to Zach Collins preach. Let's worship together, but most importantly, let's go to heaven together. Thank you again for being with a shortstop with a shortstop.